the biggest reason that I made the switch to Douglas about 5 years ago. Just an all-around great rod. The feel, the customer service, and most of all, the way that these things perform. The everyday out here trolling, you know, you got the sun, salt, and boat rash. You know, these rods really get beat up quite a bit, but I've had really great luck with the structural integrity of these things. You know, I got a couple of these rods that I've fished 5 years, and that's going on about 180 days of salmon fishing each year. So some of these have seen 300-400 fish, you know, and we're still out here fishing them. You can fish a light action rod. So this is just a 4-power rod. So it's an 8 to 17. To a lot of people, they'll think that that's too light for Chinook salmon, you know, as we do get fish up into the 50-pound range. Most of them are 15 to 25. But you can run a light rod so that your bait can perform the way it needs to. Not only that, but when these fish bite, it gives them a lot of time for that rod to fully load up before it starts to stiffen up through the lower midsection and gets that good hook set. I like trolling a longer rod out here. Obviously, we got enough boat for it, but you can run a lighter, longer rod to be able to control your fish, as well as folks who are a little bit inexperienced. That longer, softer rod is a lot more forgiving if people don't know how to fight a fish. You can just really focus on keeping that rod tip up, and this rod will absorb a lot of that shock of these big, violent king head shakes. The one that I'm fishing with right now is the LRS and the casting 9642 MF. I've used this rod for pretty much every single technique for salmon or steelhead. The versatility of this thing is just unbelievable. You know, obviously we're out here trolling for salmon today. We're not running a lot of weight, 2.5, 3 ounces. You know, it handles it well, but I also use this rod out when we're trolling the salt, trolling offshore for Chinook. And I'll put a pound of lead on this, you know, to really keep them down, keep that scope, and this rod handles it. You know, a lot of folks think that the line rating on here is kind of what determines how that rod is going to affect certain weight. That's not the case. That's more if you were casting. You know, obviously you're not going to cast a pound of lead with this thing, but the way it fishes heavy lead is amazing. Not only that, but you have a super light tip, so the read is really phenomenal. I'll back troll plugs for salmon, back troll plugs for steelhead. I've even gone as far as side drifting steelhead with one of these off the bank or out of the power boat, and then even float fishing. You know, you got a 9'6" rod, so you can run a float with them. You're able to mend some line. But if somebody was to say what is the rod that really can do it all, personally for myself, it's that 9642. It's hard to beat one rod that performs for everything. You know, when we're out here trolling, sometimes we're running 6-7 rods. I'll drop down to an 805 or a 711. And then on my front rods, I run the LRS 10642 just to get that reach. Not only that, but when that rod is sticking straight off the boat, it starts to go. You got a lot more bend. It's a lot more forgiving, so those fish can really get on that thing and commit to it before they feel that rod start to stiffen up. So your bite to hookup ratio is really phenomenal. You know, the 4-power in the Douglas series is great with that 9.6 or 10.6 length. You drop down to a shorter rod. The 805 has been kind of a little sweetheart for me. I've started fishing that for spring Chinook on the lower Rogue here when I'm fishing just a spinner. It's got a really fast tip to it, so it reads that spinner well, and it lets those fish, it's a real quick, fast reaction bite. So they grab that, it loads up, and it sticks them.